Thank you so much that you agreed for this interview. I'm very, very thankful that you agreed, and it's our pleasure to be here. So let's start with some questions. And we all know about recent conflict between Israel and Gaza when Hamas launched rockets to cities of Israel. Could you please describe what does an Israeli see and experience during those attack moments? And maybe even you have such experience by yourself.
Yeah, of course I had this experience because the last round of hostilities I was in Israel. This time I was in very peaceful, wonderful Latvia, but the people in Israel have had a completely different experience. Let's start with numbers. 13 Israelis were killed by these rockets.
13, okay.
13.
Yes.
Hundreds, 500 or so were injured, went to the hospital, were hospitalized. About 1.5 million children stayed at home. We have finished with Corona, so kids go to school, but they had to stop going to school, and because they had to be very close to shelters.
Yes.
So 1 million children stayed at home. Of course, nobody went far away from his home. Everybody kept very close to the secure areas and so on. What has happened was that there was a kind of, if you want, trauma of the people of the southern part of Israel.
Yes.
They were just they could not do nothing. They just sat and waited for the booms.
Yeah.
Thank God that we have Iron Dome.
Yeah.
That about 90% of the missiles and rockets that Hamas fired on us were destroyed in the air.
Yeah.
But the 10% that have landed created a huge damage, and they have landed not only in the areas close to Gaza, but also in Tel Aviv and very close to Jerusalem.
Even to Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I want to say is this is not homemade, simple, weapon that is done in somebody's kitchen. This is very sophisticated missiles that needed lots of know-how and lots of sophistication. So this is about the weapons. The feeling there, yes, it felt probably like ducks sitting in, waiting to be shot.
Yeah, it must be very fearful, I guess.
It's very fearful. And the government of Israel, of course, reacted against it because the government does not just choose to do it. It has the duty to defend its citizens. And since these rockets have landed, we had to answer them and finish.
Of course, yes, of course. I just think how the usual Israeli citizen feels when those rockets flying. It must be a very, very bad experience, I guess.
There are thousands of kids who are traumatized, who are going through all these treatments by psychologists and so on. Just think of 5, 6, 7 years old, even a grown up, quite frankly, who sits down waiting for the bomb. After a few minutes, he hears a huge boom. It's devastating.
Yes. We all know about recent, this conflict, yeah. As an ambassador of Israel in Latvia, how would you describe your main mission in Latvia during such conflicts in Israel?
I think my main mission is to let the public here and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the decision makers of Latvia know how we see it from the Israeli side. That we have not attacked, we did not initiate anything, we just retaliated an attack from the other side. That this is not something that we would wish for the people of Gaza. I mean, we are not at war with the Gazan people. My heart goes for them, really. They are probably the victims of Hamas just as much as we are. There's a terrorist organization who managed to become the ruler of the Gaza Strip and initiates these attacks. This is not something that the local population gains anything from it. I don't know what purpose did it serve except for showing how strong Hamas weapons are.
So basically, we can describe your mission as Israeli and ambassador. You can show the insight from inside, what's going on really from your side. One of the battles happened with physical weapons, what we know, of course, with rockets and explosives, but another takes place in media, informative space. What would you comment on how media reflects or describes the real events in Israel? How the media describes that?
Okay, it depends, of course, on what media. Okay. There were some stations who were rather impartial and good. They were not pro-Israelis as much as I would like them to be, but they were fair, okay, which is what more or less I want from them. But there were others that have let the old feelings of pro-Palestinians, sometimes I can even say anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish feelings, rule the way that they have covered it. And these showed only the suffering on one side, on the Palestinian side, did not relate to the fact that we did not initiate it, we were not the ones to fire the first, and that we have called again and again, even during the fight, to stop it, and were not reacted.
How does Latvian media shows it? Has there been much interest from the side of Latvian journalists?
Yes, quite lots of requests for interview came to us and requests to get materials, pictures. There was some interest in it, yes.
And what was their attitude? Of course, I guess you should answer polite and in a diplomatic way, but basically what was their...
I will not answer diplomatically.
Okay.
I will say that it was mixed.
Mixed.
Some were, as I said, fair, some were less fair. Some were more interested in asking me, how do you react to the suffering of Gazans? Okay. When I'm saying, okay, my heart goes for them, but I have to consider my people first. So basically,
could we say that these attitudes was 50-50, or the more was bad way, or...
No, most of it was fair. There was one or two incidents where I felt that it was pro-Palestinians, but other than that it was fair.
Okay, good. At least as a Latvian, I'm proud that there are some good words for our media.
In general it was good media, yeah.
You know, there is a very interesting thing I'd like to talk with you. And I can't do it without smile, but also there is some drama. So I have seen false videos about civil inhabitant victims, including children that have died during airstrikes toward Gaza. What would you say is the real? Actually, you mentioned the real statistics, but how about those false videos? Because I saw, the funeral of Arabian boy, and there was sounds of anti-air, yes, and there was sudden resurrection, and also I saw that there was a lot of bodies laying, covered with the white sheet, and there was, of course, people around mourning for them. And then the one body start, maybe, I don't know, there was to move and some itching. Of course, it's a pretty cheap way of falsification, But can you tell me more about those situations? Do you know another videos?
There were lots of funny videos. It might have been funny unless but since it was so serious problem, we do not see them as funny. But there were things that, for instance, there were pictures and shots and footage from the Gulf War or from the attacks on Daesh. Yeah. With lots of people injured and so on and so forth, and they were videoed as latest Palestinian victims and so on. I mean, and then people in Israel decided that it reminds them of something, and they looked into their their whatever archives and found it from I don't know, 10 years ago. Yes. And so there were some funny moments during this this operation. Yes, it shows that maybe our way of harming the enemy is successful, and in the fact that we do not hurt so many civilians. Now, don't misunderstand me. Civilians on both sides were hurt, and more Palestinians died than the 13 Israelis. We do our utmost to not hurt civilian population. Yes. There are ways of, one of them is that we have a special app that calls all the phone numbers in a certain, let's say, high-rise building, telling people within 20 minutes you are going to be bombed, go out of this building immediately. Okay. And then after 10 minutes, there's a very small bomb that falls on the roof. Yeah. To
knock bomb.
That's right. Knock on the roof bomb.
Yes, yes.
And to remind them, and then they're supposed to be out of these buildings, and then the building is destroyed. No building is destroyed by mistake. These are buildings in which, in one of the or three of the floors, there are Hamas headquarters or logistics centers or laboratories or whatever. I mean, there are all area where they store their launchers.
Yes, yes.
So the buildings are used as for military uses.
Yes, against Israel, yeah.
That's right. This is the reason for destroying. But we know that usually they built their centers in the midst of the midst and most dense civilian population areas. So in order to cause as little damage as we can to civilians, we send them. Now, to tell you that we managed to get it to zero, no, we could not. But we tried to harm as little as we could the civilian population, and this is the reason why they had to use old films or false films to show how badly they were hurt. Yeah.
But honestly, it is from their side, it's very, very nasty way how to actually they are hiding behind their own people.
They're hiding behind the, let's say this way, they commit a double war crime. One is that they shoot at Israeli civilian centers. Yes. The other is that they shoot from their own civilian centers. You are not allowed to fight from civilian, from areas that are populated with civilians. Yeah. Of course, you are not allowed to shoot towards this kind of centers. But if you shoot from civilian areas, then the reaction would be into these civilian areas and would kill your own people. And for them, that's exactly what they are trying to do. They are trying to show a devastating a picture of Israelis shooting at harmless people, whereas this is what they do themselves.
But honestly, I'm following one ministry named Behold Israel. Their leader is Amir Tzafati, and he is providing a lot of material, even raw video material. And I was very amazed about how precise strikes from Israel's side are performed. It was incredible job, which I can't say about the opposite side, which very often launches rockets. I'd say sometimes chaotic, very chaotic, and they don't know where those rockets will fall.
Some of them, they don't know where they fall, but some of the missiles are very well guided and very, okay, think of it that they managed to send the long-range missiles towards Tel Aviv, even north to Tel Aviv, to Jerusalem. This is not very simple weapons. This is sophisticated weapons that arrived probably with the help of Iran.
As I understand, then also on Palestinian side, there are battles for the influence in Gaza sector. Can you explain who with who and for what they are fighting on Gaza side? Because there are some quarrels too.
In Gaza, there are less quarrels by now. It started with the Hamas seized the Gaza Strip not with peaceful elections, okay? The way that they have taken it was to destroy the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or the Palestinian Fatah.
Fatah, yeah.
That's right. The Fatah people in the Strip, in the Gaza Strip. In Judea and Samaria, it is still Fatah's rule. Now, what they're trying to do is to gain the public opinion of Judea and Samaria. And the truth is that, or the West Bank, whatever you call it, and the truth is that, that this last war that they have launched was done out of their cynic reasons or cynic political reasons to gain force over Judea and Samaria. It's not easy for them. They have to work very hard, as you can understand. We had to destroy the city of Gaza's infrastructure.
Yes.
Now, one more thing about what happened in Gaza. The Israeli bombs have destroyed what we call the metro, which was an underground city of tunnels going around in and around and so on. Very carefully built, very carefully planned. Yes. Now, think of the cost. We have destroyed this underground city. Think of the cost to build it. I mean, Tel Aviv does not have an underground train.
Yes. Metro.
Riga doesn't have a metro because you cannot afford to build it.
Yes.
But these poor people had to build it.
It's a good point.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, there were billions of dollars that were given to Gaza through the years. Money of the UN, of the US, of the EU, of Japan, of Norway. I mean, all the donor countries. These are huge sums of money. Where did it go? Do they have the beautiful, wonderful education system that they could have built with it? Yeah. Do they have a wonderful health system? No. They don't have even, they cannot even supply their own electricity. They don't have an infrastructure. But what do they have? A metro.
Metro. But it's very strange that you mentioned those donors, actually donor countries. It's with huge money.
That's right. Where did it go?
How could it be spent in such a bad way and nobody asks for accountability? I don't know.
That's right. I agree. And then when we refused to let cement go through the border crossings with Israel, because we say that it's being used for bunkers under the ground and so on and so forth, we get all the criticism about we are not allowing them to build. Yeah. Okay, but it's dual use. At least dual use.
Now it's very, I guess, very serious, but also honest question. So we mentioned it previously. Most often media mentions Hamas and Israel in news. Are there any other big players that have big influence in the region that we don't hear about so much?
We don't hear enough, at least, about Iran and its proxy Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Okay.
These two are the main supporters of Hamas. When it comes to money, when it comes to know-how, to teach them how to build these rockets, when it comes to send them the small devices, somehow to smuggle them, I don't know how they do it, but they manage to smuggle them to the Hamas, to build it. You see, it's as I said, this is not simple weapons anymore. We're not talking about somebody who's preparing
just
a Molotov.
Just a simple explosive,
That's right, Molotov cocktails.
Yeah,
it's not Molotov cocktails. These are missiles, guided missiles. This is something that you have to know how to build, and you have to have the whatever it takes to build the chips and so on to build it. It's done very carefully with the help, both financially and when it comes to know-how of Iran. It's very clear. We have managed to stop in the past ships that were somehow sent through Sinai the weapons. It's not very easy.
They recently, Iran had a huge upset when their drone factory was attacked. Yes. So, and it was serious stuff. I heard that those drones could fly 2,000 kilometers with explosives. So, and now it's, thank God, it's gone. But okay, besides Iran and Libya, could you mention some other influences, bad influences, I mean, from other countries? Is there any idea about that? A lot of players, I guess.
There are lots of players. There are tribes and other very strong Muslim groups in the areas, again, that help.
It's around Israel, yeah? It's neighborhood countries.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. We really believe that Egypt, for instance, is doing its utmost to stop these groups from controlling the Sinai Desert. It's not an easy task. It's not, and we have no problems with the Egyptian authorities. On the contrary, we cooperate with them. So this, but yes, there are groups there that belong to Al Qaeda. By the way, the old Al Qaeda, are revived in Sinai. There are groups who are trying to make their ways through Jordan. And again, we are in very close and good cooperation with Jordan. There's no problem of security cooperation and so on when it comes to Jordan. Syria is trying to be part of this game. Probably they have no other worries in Syria except for this. All their population is happy and peaceful and so on. And the one thing that they need is to create problems with Hamas. Of course, I'm being cynic, but I don't know what Al-Assad has that this is what he needs to do right now. And I said it very clearly. There's the Hezbollah in the north, in Lebanon, that is very openly declares that he wants to destroy Israel. That's his main goal. The same as the Hamas, by the way. If you look at the Hamas charter, the basic charter of Hamas, what do they want? They exist in order to destroy Israel.
How about Turkey? Is there any influence?
Turkey is helping quite a lot, especially in the international arena, but also when it comes again to monies and to know-how and to advise and to counseling and so on and so forth. Yes, Turkey is one of the forces behind the Hamas.
I think very interesting question. You know, oftentimes in daily life, you know, there are people who are not involved in the situation or even informed about situation, but they are quick to give advices to people who are in the situation. How about the situation in this context about other countries toward Israel?
Okay, if we're talking about different countries in Europe, quite a few of them, and especially the EU, is the first one to rise and said, okay, it's about time that Israel stopped attacking civilians. Fine. Would you be silent if there were missiles attacking Paris or Rome or I don't know, or Brussels or whatever country, other country of Europe? How would you react? How would I remember that I was in one of the I was in the States then, and there was somebody who came to me asking me about these missiles and why did we attack so strongly and so on. I said, come on, if somebody would tomorrow launch missiles on Chicago, what would you do? Would you just sit aside and say, okay, since they only killed 13, I will not kill more than 13 on their side? Or will you answer in a force that would persuade them to stop sending these missiles, throwing these missiles?
But who is the most loud advisor in this context?
Okay, you mentioned before Turkey. Okay. Very strong and very vocal. There are forces, there are some of the countries of the EU. EU also. Yes, but we are grateful for the other parts of the EU that support Israel, and they do.
But actually, it's a question of hypocrisy, also, as you said.
By all means, yeah. By all means. Let's see how you would react to in the same position.
Honestly, I don't think they don't need even rockets to respond to very harshly in the case of any outside threats.
That's right.
Yeah. One more question: during these conflicts in Israel, there have been some alarming anti-Semitic observations in Europe. Yeah. How serious do you think it is?
I think it's very serious, and no sign of anti-Semitism is being taken lightly by us. There's no reason for anti-Semitism. There's nothing to do with the Jewish people and so on. This is mainly a way probably to cover the anti-Israeli feelings by saying what? That all Jews are made this way? Yeah. This is completely racist. Just as we will not say that all, I don't know, Muslims are to blame when Hamas when Hamas is shooting Israel. The same thing is going with talking about anti-Semitism, and I myself got a few WhatsApp messages. Really? Okay. With the flag of Israel and a swastika, with an Israeli soldier with a flag with a Nazi flag, and so on and so forth. This should not happen. I mean, with all due respect, and to the freedom of expression and so on and so forth, this is unacceptable.
Can you mention some more examples of this anti-Semitism? I personally heard, not from news, but some friends sent me from Germany and even from England raw videos with the phone. And what they said, I can't check that, but they said it was anti-Israel demonstrations.
There were lots of anti-Israeli demonstrations. I cannot verify all my sources, so I will not use them, I will not give it away, but there were clear racist, anti-Jewish sentiments being expressed there. Again, Nazi signs and others were talking about completely destroying the state. These were not things that were said against the Israeli actions here and there, here at this time and this place. These were broad anti-Jewish sentiments. And that's if you want, racism or anti-Semitism.
Do you have an idea who stands behind such demonstrations or actions or acts? It couldn't be that they are spontaneous.
No, they're not spontaneous. I guess, again, there are the usual suspects. Groups from Iran or Muslim or radical Muslim groups in Europe that get organized and listen. You need to have somebody to draw the nice signs that they carry and so on. It's organized. Money, of course, is not the problem because they can get it usually from Iran, but from all other radical Islamist groups that have money. But there are also, to my surprise, there are also nice European groups who are probably unaware even that they are used as a tool for these groups, of these radical groups, that go to the streets. Lots of them are students in universities and express these anti-Semitic sentiments.
It's very sad that in my opinion, in such an easy way, somebody can influence the new generation, and it's actually a dangerous situation in my opinion.
I agree. And listen, a few years ago we had a few attacks specifically on Jewish populations in Europe who have done nothing wrong. Okay, especially in France, there were 2 or 3 attacks, but there was a synagogue in Germany. There were anti-Semitic acts in Vienna, at least in Austria. I'm not sure.
Yes.
I think it was Vienna, but in Austria and other places in Europe. There are lots. What they like most is to paint swastika on graves, on Jewish graves,
and on synagogues, I guess.
Synagogues and so on and so forth. Yes, there were lots of attacks, and I really am sorry for these radical groups that exist and that influence also groups of other youngsters.
And how the governments of those countries react, in your opinion, as Israeli, good enough, or just something politely, or okay, it's just the youngsters? What's the reaction or measures taken?
The reaction, okay, when it comes to saying things, they're okay. Okay, they condemn it very, very harshly and so on and so forth, but that's not enough.
Okay, at least, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
But that's not enough. You have to have some kind of intelligence in these groups. You have to stop them. Yeah. And stopping them not only by words, because words, with all due respect, are the first step, but not more than that. Okay.
I'd like to not a little bit change thematics, but add something. A little bit about Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Christians who read the Bible, more or less, at least, they understand how important Temple Mount is for Israeli. Yeah, but is there any battle about Temple Mount, to who will worship there or perform some religious services? How about that?
Okay, since '67, when we gained our hold in Jerusalem, not for one day did the worshipping of Muslims in the Temple Mount stopped. Okay? They always had the possibility to go and pray there. Jews lately started, in the past few years, started to go there in very small groups, to pray and go back. They never interfere with the Muslim prayers and so on and so forth. The Jews, though, go in the thousands to the Western Wall, which is under the Temple Mount.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a bit lower, and that's their prayer area. There's no, thank God, there's no direct contact between the two groups that pray.
Yeah.
This is the situation. We try. We are very determined to keep it quiet.
Okay. Yeah, but it's hot potato area.
It's hot potato. Radicals from both sides always try to steer something. Usually they are not successful.
Yeah, you have good security there.
Yeah.
I was there, I saw. Yeah. By the way, does Israel have a dream to build a temple for God once again?
No. Most of the Israelis even believe that they are not allowed to step on the Temple Mount in the area that the Arabs now have, because according to Jewish halacha, to Jewish, if you want, ways of thinking, only people who were completely purified can go there. And today we are not able to purify for 100%, so we are not allowed to go there. That's for the most strongest beliefs of the Jews. Okay, there are other groups who says that this is not correct and so on, but the main belief is that you are not supposed, for religious reasons, you are not allowed to go on the Temple Mount. Okay. That is it. We are not going to build another temple where there's no reason why we should.
In accordance with Bible, you will. I mean, with the prophecies, that's what's written in the Bible. But officially, you said you don't have interest.
That some 2,000 or more years that have passed since the times of the Bible for today, and the Jewish way of prayers have changed. Today, every room is enough for us. We don't need a temple anymore. Every room is enough for people, and we need 10 men to pray for God. You don't have to have anything specific. The Judaism does not need the huge buildings and beautiful, churches and so on. We need to be in a small group, say the prayers, and go away.
Okay.
It's a very, very simple way of worshiping.
But this area must be still very special.
Listen, there are lots of emotions around this area.
Okay. You know, in Torah, in Genesis, God has said about Abraham and also to Israel, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. In what ways a Latvian nation can be a blessing to Israel? What do you think?
By staying our good friend and ally, as always. And this is what we would very much, this is why I'm here at all. This is why this embassy was erected, to keep the very good, friendly relations between the two nations. And I hope it will last forever. There's no reason why it shouldn't.
Is there any specific reasons how we can be blessing?
Yes, strengthening the ties between the two nations, strengthening the commercial ties between the two nations, having youngsters from your groups of students from Latvia come to Israel and vice versa. This is the wonderful ways in which two different nations do their coexistence, if you want.
Okay. I'd like to say you that I can say about everybody here in Latvia, but a lot of Christians are praying for Israel and bless Israel. And of course, there is some people who understand more deeply the situation, and also there is people who need to be educated. And our interview was a very small attempt to help in these matters, you know. And I'm very, very thankful that you agreed. And I wish shalom to you personally and shalom to Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. It was really heartwarming to be here with you. And thanks for the good sentiments and for Latvia for its sentiment towards Israel.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. You too.
Paldies.